The Wednesday Night Wrestling Wars have begun, and history has been made as AEW has crowned its first women's champion. This is AEW Wednesday Night Dynamite's premiere episode. So, in case you're wondering, I DVR'd NXT and watched AEW live. Couple of noteworthy things. This is a TV-14 rated show. They did swear quite a bit throughout most of it. Your commentators are Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur. Schiavone didn't really do much. He was actually pretty quiet throughout most of it. It was mainly Jim Ross and Excalibur. Occasionally, Schiavone worked in something. I believe he was also supposed to do a few in-ring interviews. And they also had Chris Van Vliet doing the in-ring interviews. Of course, the other noteworthy thing in the crowd were Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes, because Chris Jericho's apparently in Jay and Silent Bob, the reboot. Maybe I'll touch on that later because they did interview them, but that's not too much there. Starting off with the first match on the first wrestling match on TNT in almost 20 years. It's Cody versus Sammy Guevara. Right off the bat, when they enter, they actually had the records for each of the competitors next to their name chyrons when they came up. So again, they are trying to emphasize this. AEW is trying to make wrestling seem more like a sport. So again, where records and rankings are going to play into things. The crowd was decidedly pro Cody, though Guevara didn't exactly play heel at first. We'll get to that. Lots of bits on here right off the bat. Sammy leapt out of a trip attempt and kind of tried to go for a quick roll-up, Oklahoma roll style. Sammy's a big parkour skateboarding guy, so he's doing a lot of aerial stuff. He had a backflip leapfrog, then hit a standing moonsault on that. Cody came back with some moves of his own. He had his kick where he springboards off the rope. I cannot remember what it was called for the love of it. I just sometimes one of the complaints I will have with the announcers on this show is sometimes they would throw things out and I couldn't hear them. They throw things out a little too quickly, so I didn't quite catch the name of the kick. Both men pulled off a springboard cutter maneuver. Cody came off the second rope. Guevara came off the top rope for his move. Cody attempted a suicide dive, but then Guevara basically turned heel because he pulled Brandy Rhodes, Cody's wife, into the pathway of the suicide dive. Cody hit a running shooting star press. Brandy, got back and clopped Guevara with a shoe, and Cody hit. That's where Cody hits his kick. Only got a 2 count out of that. Cody hit a reverse superplex off the top rope. Guevara came back with a Spanish fly from the top rope. He then went for a shooting star press off the top rope, but then Cody got his knees up and then pulled it right into a small package for the 3 count of the victory. Good, decent, solid match to start things off. One of the things is Cody is getting a chance for the AEW World Championship at the next pay-per-view, which is... his name is so forgettable, I can't really remember it right now. It's Full Gear, I think. I think that's it, yeah. Don't really know how I feel about that, because this is effectively Cody and the Young Bucks company, and Kenny Omega's a high-ranking guy in it too. He's like executive VP of talent relations or something like that. And I don't want this to turn into TNA. I don't want this to be a vanity project for them. Like, they shouldn't be in the title pictures for anything. Like, maybe Kenny Omega, because he is on the lower rung, but, when the guys who effectively are co-owners of the company are getting world championship shots, it doesn't quite feel good to me. Like I said, it feels like you're turning this into a big vanity project, and like I said, it leaves me with an uneasy feeling. But again, I'm willing to let things play out. Like after the match, Tony Schiavone actually came down for an interview in the ring. Cody very gratefully hugged him, welcoming him back into, pretty much onto TNT. I mean, obviously he's been calling matches for MLW in the past year and a half or so, so you're getting that kind of going on there too. At that point, Sammy Guevara shoved Cody Rhodes, but then kind of begrudgingly shook his hand. At that point, Chris Jericho hit the ring and attacked Cody, and then they went through the entire ad break, which was a split screen ad break, and that's where basically the beatdown continued all the way through. And that pretty much led into the second match, which was Brandon Cutler versus Maxwell Jacob Friedman or Maxwell Jacob Friedman or MJF. Sorry, they did announce that they did bring up that Cutler is a big D&D player. Cutler trained with the Young Bucks for a long time, so yeah, he's in tight with them, and Cutler had some D&D references on his stuff. And of course, if you don't follow social media, MJF caught a lot of flack for making derogatory Dungeons and Dragons tweets, and the announcers did bring that up. Cutler opened up. He hit a big top rope. He hit a air raid over the top rope, sending MJF out of the ring. MJF threw Cutler into the ring post. Cutler hit a couple suicide dives, but tweaked his knee on the second one, and that enabled MJF to kind of get a cheap shot on Cutler in the ring and lock on his Fujiwara armbar for a tap out. Little squash match, not terrible. MJF is a really, really well trained heel. He's so good at this. I mean, I've seen comparisons to EC3 when he was in Impact, and yeah, I could see that. I also kind of compare him a bit to Kevin Owens in that he's really good at just saying the right thing to cheese the crowd off. Like I said, not terrible. At that point, we get the Kevin Smith, Jason Mewes interview. At some point, another tag team interrupted them called the Hybrid 2. I've never heard of them. Private Party then came out to attack them. They then announced the tag team tournament for the championships next week. We then got a SoCal Uncensored vignette where it was announced that Daniels and Kazarian will be representing the team in the tournament, and that was interrupted by the Lucha Brothers, which led to another fight. And that went to another commercial break, but sort of. They actually went into the third match of the night, which is Hangman Page versus Pac, or is it Pac? I always said Pac, so yeah, that's Neville if you've only been watching WWE. But at this point, they had both guys enter the ring, and then they went to a commercial break, but not the split screen commercial break, a full screen commercial break. And then when they came back out of it, it looked like Pac was trying to leave. But then Paige got on the outside. He hit a lariat. He hit a suicide dive. Paige hit a blocked a crossbody attempt and a fallaway slam. Pac hit an Asai moonsault to the outside. Pac hit a basement dropkick, but Paige interrupted a Black Arrow attempt. Black Arrow is the new name for the Red Arrow. Paige hit a spine buster and followed with a pop-up power bomb. Paige hit some type of maneuver to the outside of the ring. I didn't quite catch it. At this point, though, they got back into the ring, and Pac managed to get the referee in such a position that he was able to kick Paige in the jubblies, basically. And then he hit the Red Arrow, or the Black Arrow, sorry. And then the Brutalizer, which is his Rings of Saturn finisher, and Paige gave up. So, yeah, Hangman Page, who was the guy they were earmarking as a major player in the world title picture, is now had 2 consecutive defeats. It is nice that they're pushing Pac after the kind of scuzzlebutt that happened when he signed because he didn't want to leave Dragon Gate fully. That's a whole thing unto itself. But anyway, overall, like I said, a decent enough match. Good job. It did a good job of getting Pac over as a heel. Paige, I think, looked better in this than he did at Fyter Fest. I didn't see the All Out match, so I can't say entirely for certain. But overall, it's pretty good. Okay, the next kind of big thing that happened was Britt Baker came out to commentate for the next match, which is the crowning of the inaugural AEW Women's Champion. It's Nyla Rose versus Rio. Right off the bat, Rio basically tried to use her lack of size and speed as an advantage. She hit some drop kicks. She dodged a splash attempt. Rio hit a tilt-a-roll head scissors. At one point, Nyla Rose came back and hit a splash, but Rio actually managed to kind of coyly slide out of the pin attempt. Rose eventually got back and locked on a big STF She hit a back elbow, but Rio came back and hit a couple of jumping knee strikes. Nyla Rose grabbed a chair, and the ref had to pull it away. But this did enable Nyla Rose to set up a pile of chairs, kind of slam. They weren't like stacked. They weren't like set up normally chairs. They were just kind of piled up like this. And she slammed Rio onto the chairs, but then she went for a senton off of the ring apron, which Rio dodged and hit a double stomp to the outside, with Nyla Rose now landing on the chairs. And then Rio tried to lock on a crossface. Rose fell out of it. Rio tried to go for a crucifix pin, but Nyla Rose hit a Samoan drop out of that. Rose hit her. This was during the split screen ad break. Excuse me. And as that happened, Rose draped Rio over the top rope and then hit a jumping knee drop from the top rope. Rose hit a Death Valley driver for a 2 count. Rio hit a Northern Lights superplex. Okay, so let me recap that again. Sorry. Basically, Rio hit a Northern Lights superplex and then hit 2 flying double knees for the 3 count and the victory. So your first ever AEW Women's Champion is Rio. After the match, Nakazawa, I guess he's their Japanese announcer, interpreters, tried to interview Rio. Rio would not play to the hard camera side for some reason. She kept showing the belt. She was showing it back. Yeah, for those of you who don't understand what hard camera means, that's the camera that's facing the ring all the time. So that's the side you're supposed to play to when you are in the ring cutting a promo or you're holding up a championship or something. You play to that side so the audience at home can see you. And for some reason Rio's playing to the other side from that, so you're seeing the back of her head. And the refs are literally pointing like, no, we need you to face this way. And then she turned to the other side and it's like, no. And Nakazawa got in the ring and got her straightened out. At that point, Nyla Rose jumped both of them, but then Kenny Omega came out to make the save, because Kenny Omega kind of sort of trained Rio. I know they tagged for a while in Japan. Again, sorry, just this damn cough is not going away. It's also, I haven't had anything to drink. I need to do that. But basically, to recap again, because I was starting to lose my voice, Kenny Omega came out for the save because he and Rio have a past together. They tagged for a little bit in Japan. I believe he also did some of her training at some of the dojos in Japan. So that's where that came from. The match overall for itself was okay. I think it could have been a little bit better. I think they did not fill in the dead space for the ads as well as a lot of the others. And again, I think too, maybe there was the language barrier didn't play in very well. Again, at the end when Rio wins the championship, it is playing to the wrong side of the audience. It didn't really help that much. But like I said, I think it could have been better. It was an all-right match. It wasn't terrible, but I think too, with such a size differential, you're obviously not going to see much of a suplex or anything. When Rio did hit the Northern Lights superplex, that was kind of like the big high point of the match. Okay, I had some water, so hopefully that'll clear up the coughing fits. Anyway, that leads us into our main event of the evening, a 6-man tag match featuring the Elite, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho and Santino Marella's twin sister is not in this. Santana and Ortiz. Oh boy, I screwed that up. Santana and Ortiz, they were the latest incarnation of LAX in Impact Wrestling. Though to me, I always think Homicide and Hernandez when I think of LAX. I don't I know one of them's still around, but anyway. Right off the bat, Omega wanted to face Chris Jericho, but Jericho immediately tagged Santana into the match. Omega hit a leg lariat, and he followed with a Hurricane Run on Ortiz. The Bucks came in and hit a couple super kicks naturally. At this point, Kenny Omega was preparing to do a suicide dive or something to the outside, and Jon Moxley hit the ring. And Moxley and Omega began brawling out into the crowd. This basically turned the match to a 3-on-2 handicap match. As Omega and I keep wanting to say Ambrose. Omega and Moxley brawled through the crowd to get to the backstage area, and Moxley hits the paradigm shift, that's the Dirty Deeds DDT, onto a glass table. So yeah, that takes Omega out of this, so it continues as a 2-on-3 handicap match. Excuse me. Okay, so coming out of the ad break, like I said, it's a 2-on-3 handicap match. Matt Jackson is in the ring, and he speared Ortiz, but Santana broke up the Young Bucks tag attempt. At this point, yeah, the heels are basically completely isolating the Young Bucks from each other. Eventually, Nick got the hot tag into the match. They fought back and through. Matt blocked a lion salt. At this point, Nick landed a series of kicks when he got the hot tag. But then Matt tagged back into the match. This big schmoz breaks out, and Jericho caught Matt with the Judas effect for the 3 count and the victory. At this point, the heels start to beat down on the Young Bucks. Cody hits the ring to face Jericho, but then Sammy Guevara runs into the ring and attacks Cody again. Okay, that brought out Dustin, former Goldust, obviously Cody's brother, half-brother, and he starts attacking Guevara, but then out of the crowd comes Jake Hager, aka Jack Swagger, if you knew him in WWE, and he's now on Jericho's side, and it seems like we've got a little faction that's formed to combat the Elite, and it's Jericho, Ortiz, Santana, Jake Hager, and Sammy Guevara. And they just commence a big beatdown, and they stand triumphant as the cameras go off the air. Sorry again for all the cuts in this. I'm just, my throat's being really rough right now for some reason. Maybe it's because I have to keep the volume lower. It's really early in the morning. I guess maybe that's what's going on. Anyway, my overall thoughts on the show, it was pretty darn good. I mean, a lot of good action throughout most of it. There wasn't really a lot of dead spots. There's a few with the promos and stuff, but they didn't overdo it the way WWE really tends to. It was very tightly paced. When I get to NXT, I'll talk about something, but when they did their split screen commercials, they did a pretty good job of filling in that time pretty well, except for the Women's Championship match. I think that one could have been better, but overall, I think a lot of these were really well done. They really did a good job of continuing the story. I am kind of looking forward to the Tag Team Championship tournament next week, but we'll probably get to that when we do. I don't know if I'll do a show to recover that, because I'm doing too much this week already, and I kind of need a little time to unwind. So overall, I would say I'm going to give AEW's Wednesday Night Dynamite premiere episode an A. It was pretty enjoyable overall. It was really good. So yeah, I'll talk about the NXT's episode, but I'm going to do that in its own separate video, which I'll be shooting right after this. So see you all then. Are you tired of me constantly talking only about WWE and NXT? Want to see me expand my wrestling coverage? Check out my Patreon at Sleepy Time for Cat Productions. Also, remember, if you like the video, give it a like, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.